to each and everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. I do hope all of you are staying safe, are staying healthy, and most importantly, are enjoying life to the fullest. I know it's hard, but come on, let's try to find it within us to, to just let go of all those negativity, let go of all those bad thoughts, bad news really that may come our way, but instead let's focus on the good things. Let's try to be more kind towards the people around us. Let's try to be more understanding. Let's try to be more concerned to our surroundings. And by doing such thing, who knows, we might just influence another person in doing the same thing, and it's going to be a ripple effect, and eventually, who knows, we might just achieve that world peace. Yes. Yeah. Okay. We are here to do your requests. Of course, you guys, I love you all, and I know how much you love me as well. But hey, we are here to do interesting facts. Interesting facts about Russia. Okay, this is uploaded via Cool Vision. Shout out to the original uploader, and I urge you to please go ahead and watch this particular video on the original uploader's account to show him some appreciation, some love, and really to say thank you for these type of videos, and to really spread awareness throughout the world. Yeah. Okay, where are my headsets? All right, here it is. Guys, I will be linking, by the way, the link of this particular video on the description box below. So it's just going to be a click away. So guys, please go ahead and check this one out. So without delay, let's go ahead and check this. 1, 2, 3, let us play this. Come on.
Russia, the largest country in the world, located in the north of Eurasia, covering 11 time zones. Once Churchill said, Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma.
Wow.
So let's try to figure it out.
That's a lot of mystery
let's start.
right there.
Russia is a cold country. It's true. In some northern cities of Russia like Yakutsk, those who own cars have to park their vehicles in heated garages with a blanket wrapped around the battery. And when they drive, they keep the engine running all day. It is the largest country in the world, with an area of 17 million square kilometers. That is twice more than the United States. But actually, only 35% of that territory is suitable for living. The remaining 65% is occupied by permafrost.
Which is, I think it's a good thing.
The agricultural season in most parts of the country is just 2 to 4 months. For comparison, in Europe and the US, it is 8 to 9 months.
I'm sorry for talking on top of him.
By permafrost. The agricultural season in most parts of the country is just 2 to 4 months. For comparison, in Europe and the US, it is 8 to 9 months. The landscape varies from tundra, steppes, forests, to mountains and subtropical beaches. Russia has several major parts: the European part, the South, the Urals, Siberia, and the Far East. 77% of the population lives in the European part of the country, and here it's mostly uninhabited. The most typical landscape of Russia will be something like this. For 2016, according to the International Monetary Fund, Russia ranks 12th in terms of nominal GDP. The economy is predominantly based on raw materials, which comes as no surprise knowing the enormous natural reserves of Russia. First place in the world in natural gas and forest reserves. 6th place in oil reserves. 2nd place in coal reserves, and so much more. The World Bank estimates the value of all Russia's natural resources at $75 trillion. Impressive, right?
Very impressive.
Since Russia was so lucky with natural resources, it would seem logical that the average salary in the country should be no less than it is in Europe. But that's not the case.
Ooh.
In 2016, it was only 28,000 rubles, or $450 a month. So while the country is rich, the population is poor. As in many developing countries around the world, there is a huge income gap. Minimum salary is just $120, while the salary of a member of the Russian parliament is around $7,000 a month. Even professions that are considered to be well paid in the West get paid little in Russia. The average salary...
I can truly really relate to this because, yes, us who are living in a developing country has, guys, I can tell you that your salary is way above our minimum salary wage, but then of course it's not really like a amount to amount comparison, because really at the end of it all, it's like the power of the money, how much everything costs and all that. But let me tell you, everything is so expensive these days. I mean, really, it's hard for me to grasp as to how a minimum wage employee or like a head of a family are able to really like feed the entire family with just like one person like doing the working. And I don't know, it's just tough. It's just tough these days. But yes, we continuously fight through that and be more efficient and be more productive when it comes to really living life. So I guess we're not far behind, or we're not far apart when it comes to that terms. And yes, I just want to emphasize how much I can relate to all of you. And it's kind of sad sometimes, but we have no way of like dealing with it but to accept the reality and just live accordingly, instead of like kind of dwelling on this and that. So that's just it's just what it
While the
is.
salary of a member of the Russian parliament is around $7,000 a month. Even professions that are considered to be well paid in the West get paid little in Russia. The average salary of a doctor is just $700 a month and $450 for a nurse.
Ours is way
The
lower.
state controls 70% of the economy. Therefore, the largest companies in Russia are state-owned raw materials companies like Gazprom and Rosneft, or monopolies like Russian Railroad and the Russian Post. As the case in the rest of the world, state-owned companies are not exactly examples of innovations in modern technologies. But what about private business? In Russia, there are some successful private companies such as Magnet, supermarket chain, Yandex, internet company, Tinkoff, online bank, Kaspersky Lab, VK Social Network, and others. But even they seem to be very much under the government control in terms of what they can and cannot do. And it's sad because at one point Russia was one of the few countries where Google and Facebook actually faced local competition, but things turned dismal in the end. On the bright side, many services in Russia cost less than they do in the West. Taxi prices, the internet, electricity and cell communications, well below their Western counterparts.
Which is such a good thing, right? Because
What then prevents Russia from taking a leading role in the world? There are a lot of reasons, but it's enough to mention corruption and endless bureaucracy, and you get the picture.
I think in every
100 years
country-
ago, 85% of Russia's population was rural. Today, 3/4 live in the cities. Let's take a look at the biggest.
that's massive.
Moscow. Moscow is the dream city for the majority of Russians. Salaries here are 3 to 5 times higher
Ooh.
than in the rest of the country. The Moscow subway serves 9 million passengers a day. This is more than the subways of New York and London
I
combined.
know. That's what I realized.
Everybody's
last
running and
time.
no one speaks English. That's how foreigners describe the city. In 2016, Moscow was the third city in the world with the largest number of billionaires. 60 people to be exact, just right after New York and Hong Kong.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
St. Petersburg, one of the most beautiful
I
cities in
know.
Russia.
Oh
North
my God.
Venice, famous
Oh my
for its
God.
drawbridges and white nights. Foreigners adore St. Pete and say it reminds them of Paris and Rome. On Nevsky Prospect, there is a higher chance of hearing foreign speech than Russian. Novosibirsk,
Oh, I
the
have
third
not heard
largest
about
city.
This one.
It's a city in Siberia and the scientific capital of Russia. It's famous for its Akademgorodok, which accommodates several research institutions. One of the greenest cities in Russia.
Yekaterinburg is a phenomenal place with a deep
Yekaterinburg.
history and a rich culture. The gateway between Europe and Asia, the hometown of Russia's first president, the world leader in consumption of mayonnaise, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. But seriously, Yekaterinburg is one of the most developed post-industrial areas in the country, which has its valuable natural and intellectual resources.
Kazan, the capital of Tatarstan, the largest port on the bank of the Volga. It has two cultures, Tatar and Russian, peacefully coexisting. The main attraction is, of course, the Kazan Kremlin. And the fastest growing city in Russia, Krasnodar. Many residents of the northern regions move here for a warmer climate. It's near the mountains and only 2-hour drive from the Black Sea coast. Villages in Russia are in a deplorable state. The rural population is shrinking everywhere. People are living for larger cities. Many villages have been abandoned altogether. Sadly, there is no place for them in modern Russia reality. In most villages today, the hope for a future is slowly disappearing, and with that disappears a very important part of the Russian
I mean,
culture.
it's sad, but I understand why. And,
Secondary education is very fundamental and is in no way inferior to the Western, and in many ways it surpasses it. Russia has been suffering from brain drain ever since the collapse of the USSR. Many people are overqualified for their positions, and in small towns there are simply no opportunities for them to build a career, which forces young professionals to move to Moscow or abroad. In 2013, Russia was visited by 28 million tourists. The most popular destinations are Moscow and St. Pete, of course, resorts of Krasnodar region, ski resorts, the Golden Ring of Russia, and cruises along the Volga. Foreigners love long trips along the Trans-Siberian Railroad, visiting Altai Mountains and Lake Baikal, traveling to Kamchatka volcanoes, and cruises on an icebreaker to the Russian Arctic National Park. By the way, Lake Baikal is the deepest lake in the world and the largest source of fresh water on the planet. The Siberian taiga is the largest forest in the world, the lungs of the planet.
Heard of this? Have we?
Most Russians live in modest apartments. Surprisingly, possessing enormous territories, Russians continue to build high-rise apartment buildings 20 or more floors. Many Russians have summer houses, country cottages, where they can have picnics and grow vegetables and flowers all summer.
Ours here, we don't have,
Russia takes the third place in the world after the US and China in the length of railroads. The longest route is the Trans-Siberian Railroad from Moscow to Vladivostok, crosses 7 time zones and almost takes a week.
That's how huge that
Public
is.
transport in large cities is well developed.
Oh my God,
you
that's
have trams,
beautiful.
buses, trolley buses, fixed route taxi buses. 7 cities have an underground subway.
That's something, right?
Subway stations in Russia are generally works of art. Roads construction has always been a controversial issue. Most federal roads do not meet modern standards of quality and safety. Extremely small number of freeways. The construction of new roads is slow. Russia has its own car manufacturer,
I have not heard of
whose
that.
share in the Russian car market is 19% for 2016. The best-selling cars that same year were Hyundai Solaris, Lada Granta, and Kia Rio. Many foreigners come into Russia and expect to see lots of street crime and the Russian mob, and they're very surprised that in fact everything is civilized and peaceful.
So what's up?
Nevertheless, the statistics don't lie. The murder rate for 100,000 people is 9.5. Compare that to the US, where it's 3.8, Belgium, where it's 1.8, and Canada, where it's 1.5. At the same time, if you compare the statistics on rape for 2010, in Russia this figure was 3.4. In the US, 27.3, which is almost 10 times higher. In Belgium, 27.9. And in Sweden, 63.5. So 20 times higher. So, where are you going to feel safer traveling with your wife and daughter?
Go to Russia compared to Sweden. I mean,
despite the fact that there is free medicine in Russia, the quality of services is very low. Life expectancy is just 65 years for men and 76 for women. At the same time, the birth rate in Russia is higher than it is in Europe, 13.3 per 1,000 people versus the European Union 10.1. Dealing with government agencies, whether obtaining any kind of certificate, going to the police, etc., is associated with a huge loss of time and stress. According to Corruption Perception Index from Transparency International, Russia is among the 50 most corrupt countries in the world.
I wonder who's number 1 though.
Customer service in Russia has traditionally been at a low level. Often you can meet the lack of smiles and indifference of employees.
Maybe it's just like a
Vladimir Putin's been in power since 1999, and it's probably gonna stay that way. Truth is, most Russians simply vote for the person they show on TV the most. Freedom of speech has been compromised, and many journalists... Oh shit, it's the KGB knocking on my door. Russian cuisine is very tasty, but it almost never falls into the top world ratings. Perhaps because it doesn't have an abundance of fresh fruit and vegetables, as well as a large number of fatty and flour dishes, mayonnaise and pickles. Today, pizza, burgers and sushi can be found everywhere. In 2001, less than 13% of Russians preferred grain coffee, and in 2015 it was 41%.
That's
Foreigners
great,
love
right?
to visit fast food places in Russia. First, they can offer you beer, and secondly, they're much cleaner and nicer than in the US. No homeless people here. The food scene has improved dramatically. You now have burger places, craft beer bars, Asian restaurants, and so on. It's no secret that Russian women are beautiful.
Yes,
Even the slightest
gorgeous.
excuse to go out will make them want to apply makeup and put on high heels. Russians are very different from Europeans and Americans. A smile without a reason does not always find understanding. Try to smile at someone on the subway. Most likely, you will simply be ignored, or they will regard it as flirting. In Russia, it is considered weird to smile at people that you don't know.
Really now.
Most Russians are very patriotic. They like to have tea and vodka parties in the kitchen and argue about politics and life in general. Foreigners get surprised to learn that cold Russians can become very hospitable people.
That's what
Russian
I really
is the
did
second
notice.
most popular language on the internet after English, and one of the 6 official languages of the United Nations. But do Russians speak English?
Not
Actually,
this much.
let's find out.
Excuse me, do you guys speak English? No? Okay.
But at
Hey,
least they
excuse me,
understand,
guys.
right?
Do you speak English? No? Okay. Hey, excuse me, do you speak English? No? Okay.
Well, apparently not so many. In Russia, sports are very popular. Football indisputably holds a leading position. Also popular are hockey, basketball, volleyball, and boxing. Russia is known throughout the world for its achievements in gymnastics and figure skating. In recent years, the popularity of a healthy lifestyle is becoming noticeable. In large
great,
cities, many
which is
fitness
great.
centers have opened up. Also, lots of ski resorts. In winter, such unusual sports are popular like rally on ice, winter kiting, and even winter cycling. Russian is the second most popular language on the internet after English, and one of the 6 official languages of the United Nations. Russians have many unique traditions such as visiting bathhouses or banyas,
Oh,
swimming in the ice hole in a 20-degree below
Yes,
temperature,
somebody
winter fishing,
explained
hunting,
this to me.
lawn celebrations, and saying lawn toasts. Russia is a wonderful country.
I know, it is.
Beautiful nature, wonderful people, and a harsh climate with endless territory.
That's
I think Russia has great potential and many opportunities. And what do you think about Russia?
thus far. I really want to go, but you know, if everything permits, how I wish, right? But for now, it's on my bucket list for sure. I mean, amidst all of those like controversial like opinions of some, I think it's at the end of it all, it's really worthy of like exploring, right? Okay, that was it. And may I say that was such a great video and very informative at that. And guys, there's a lot of new things I really have learned just like by watching this video. And kudos to Cool Vision for the very great video. And yes, once again, guys, I will be linking their official account as well as the link of this video on the description box below. And with that said, though, I think it will all boil down to like really cultural differences. We do have our distinct like, you know, attributes per country, not even per country, in fact, per city, per province, and you can't really like tell that we should all be the same. I mean, come on, of course not, because we grew up in different backgrounds, we grew up in different like you know, scenarios in life, and we can't really expect that of like, you know, to be this, to for one particular country be the same as our culture or tradition, because yes, that would be no-brainer, right? But you know what, at the end of it all, I do feel just by like, you know, reading from your comments, reading from the interactions I get from all of you guys, I really do feel at the end of it all, like there we can find this common ground where we can be more, you know, be more appreciative of each other and be more open to getting to know each other. If if we just like take that leap and be the better person. And because sometimes it's not because that they're snob, they're like like standoffish or anything to that extent. I think it's sometimes because they're shy and they're not used to those things. So maybe one may perceive them as like being like indifferent or anything to that extent. But what, just I'm just basing this on my own experience when it comes to like interacting with all of you guys. The mainly it's really like, it's just like like be as friendly or natural as possible. I think everybody will respond to the feedback, right? It's you so crazy very much things. They just matter of like you interact with them. It's just like what you give is what you get at the same time. So guys, I know I may be misinterpreting things, and if you can please enlighten me and it's like give me some infos or anything to that extent, I'd appreciate it so much. And guys, once again, thank you for dropping by. I do hope to see you next time. In the meantime, please do take care, all right? Until then, ciao.